Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Next, the author describes those situations in which one is legally exempted from fasting. However, the fast must be made up once these conditions are lifted and removed. The first of the legal excuses mentioned is the following. The author says, the traveler is excused from fasting. This is the case whether the trip was in obedience or disobedience, similar to the dispensation for shortening the prayer for the traveler. The distance for one to be excused from fasting is the same as the distance that one must travel to shorten the prayer. It would not be permissible for one to break the fast until after he or she has reached the distance for which one is considered a traveler. The traveler can continue fasting if he or she wants. If the traveler begins by fasting and then passes the distance that necessitates the shortening of the prayer, he or she has the choice. Either he or she can continue fasting, which is recommended and more praiseworthy, or he or she can break the fast. Similarly, if a traveler passes the distance in which they are considered travelers and break the fast, but then return to the place of residency, they are not obligated to fast the rest of the day. However, it is encouraged to do so. The second situation in which one is exempted from fasting is, the author says, as well as one who fears harm for oneself. This fear is valid when one's assumption of harm is overwhelming. That is to say that if one assumes that the harm is more likely than safety, one can break the fast. If a sick person, for example, has the overwhelming assumption that fasting would further harm him or her, this would be legal grounds to break or refrain from the fast. This dispensation would also apply to one who fears that the fasting would be a means of harm for one who is doing a permissible and necessary job. Such person would also be exempted. The text Al-Azhar mentions a third case in which one is exempted from fasting. This case is if one were forced to do so by another. If one was threatened with harm to one's life or body, if he or she were to fast, by a person who is able to carry out the threat, such person would be permitted to break the fast or refrain from fasting in that case. This is because it would be a situation in which one is forcefully prevented from an obligation. The author continues by saying, it is religiously obligatory to break the fast if one fears damage or harm to another, like the breastfeeding baby or embryo. That is, if the refraining from food and drink would further harm or terminate the life of another, one is religiously obligated to break the fast in that case. That withstanding, if one were to continue the fast, that fast would be considered invalid and unsound. If the mother fears with a degree of certainty that fasting would result in the decrease of milk or the like if she were to fast, she would be permitted to break the fast, and her fast in that case would not be considered sound. The text Al-Azhar also says, quote, it is impermissible and invalid for a menstruating woman or a woman with postpartum bleeding to fast. However, they should make it up. End quote. That is to say that they are to make it up after Ramadan. Also missing from this text, the text Al-Azhar establishes a principle that we already alluded to. That principle is, quote, it is recommended for the one whose excuse is lifted to refrain even if he or she had already broken the fast, end quote. That is to say that it is recommended and highly encouraged for one who had a legal excuse to not fast to go the rest of the day fasting once that excuse is lifted. For example, if a menstruating woman is purified during the middle of the day in Ramadan, she should fast for the rest of that day, even if she ate and drank at the beginning of the day. This would be out of respect for the holy month.